Merriam-Webster defines revolution as an activity or movement designed to effect fundamental changes in the socio-economic situation. The 1986 EDSA People Power was said to be a peaceful and bloodless revolution that brought back democracy to the country. However, when the Marcos dictatorship fell, those who assumed power were no different from the Marcoses in terms of class and wealth. To this day, those from the same class continue to fail us. So can the 1986 EDSA People Power truly be considered a revolution? Or has calling it a revolution been a misnomer all along? The protests lasted 4 days along Epifanio de los Santos Avenue. It started with Marcos' wrongful claim of victory over the snap elections of February 20, 1986 against Corazon Aquino. Thousands of people gathered in EDSA to express their strong dissent against the dictatorship of Ferdinand Marcos. Marcos sent the military and their armored tanks, which were fearlessly opposed by people armed with rosaries, flowers, and the iconic Laban sign. On February 25, 1986, Aquino was elected president, and Marcos was removed from Malacanang. The next day, the Marcos family fled to Guam in defeat and was exiled to Hawaii shortly after. But what kind of change did EDSA bring forth? We must not discount the changes brought by the EDSA People Power, which led to better outcomes. The main achievement of the EDSA People Power was the toppling of dictator Ferdinand Marcos, who was overthrown through the collective action of the Filipino people. Along with that, Imelda Marcos and the whole Marcos family were exiled outside the country, exposing their massive corruption and lavish lifestyle. The overthrow of the dictatorship was also a temporary win for press freedom, since it was during Marcos' rule when several media outlets and organizations were closed down. On September 22, 1972, Marcos shut down privately owned media companies, including ABS-CBN. Journalists from both mainstream and alternative media who criticized the government were jailed or killed. Lastly, the 1986 People Power triumphed in proving an unequivocal, glaring truth: that power lies in the collective action of the masses. In this victory, there were also changes that brought about the worst. Exiled dynastic families whose wealth were taken by Marcos reclaimed their power. And since the Aquino administration did not ban family dynasties, failed to implement genuine land reform, and privatize natural resources and utilities, all the privileges and entitlements remained in the hands of the oligarchs. Finally, and ironically, the Marcos family, the family that the People Power once ousted, regained power in no time. Imelda Marcos returned to the Philippines in 1991 and won a seat in Congress twice, and even ran for the presidential election twice. Bongbong and Amy Marcos both served as senator and governor not long ago. Bongbong even ran for vice presidency in 2016. The Marcoses have returned to power by spreading misinformation. They have weaponized social media by creating false information favorable to them, victimizing the people as a result. The failure of the EDSA People Power to effect systemic socio-economic changes resulted in the return to personalized politics through deep patron-client relationships and the rule of political dynasties. The EDSA People Power changed the names of the people in power, but this never changed who was pulling the strings: the ruling class. Today, we face another strong man who, like Marcos, has defined his administration with corruption, human rights abuses, and silencing of dissenters. We continue to live and struggle under tyrannical rule, just under a different name. Since 2016, 27,000 alleged drug peddlers have been killed without due process. Around 250 human rights defenders and activists have also been killed. In 2020, ABS-CBN was shut down once again. These crimes are parallel to the violence that occurred under the Marcos dictatorship, a driving force that once led thousands of people to EDSA. In the end, to call EDSA People Power a revolution as a misnomer is still debatable. So how do we commemorate the win of the 1986 EDSA People Power when we find ourselves in the same place 35 years later? We commemorate it by remembering the struggles and sufferings of the masses and victims under Marcos. We remember it by raising our voices and fighting against attacks on basic human rights, academic freedom, the freedom of the press and of expressions. We must continue to resist tyranny and to never forget